What's cooking, everybody? It's your boy Brees, and you're now tuned in to the hottest platform for all the entrepreneurs, creatives, and business professionals around New York City and today around the world. So the audience knows I had to go back to my old intro because today we have a special guest coming from outside of New York. So, got to put a little New York feel into that. So, I'd like to welcome you all to my guest today. That's my evil twin, Maurice, because we got Fabrice and we got Maurice. No doubt.
What's up, brother?
Yeah, dude, all right. Yeah, so actually I have a friend named Maurice, so that is actually always our joke. Like if one of us do something wrong, it'd be like, oh, it's our evil twin. Yeah, Fabrice, Maurice, Fabrice. So
I'll take that role.
Yeah, you're the actual, you're both the actual Maurices, but you're Maurice for today. No doubt. Yeah, so how was the coming?
I was telling you I was overseas, and then she went for the holidays, finally went back to DC, took the train up. Was no big deal.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Me, I just came right out of work. You saw me rushed in. I was kind of slow coming down, whatnot, just because, I was rushing the train. It's just compact.
We got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, we've been trying to get this episode done for, months.
Yep.
So, it's a pleasure to finally have you here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not just here, but in New York City. Yeah, because, you've been in New York, but I was sitting there at New York, what's going on there? Dirk got to represent.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, so I actually do have like a long list. I keep scrolling. I take a lot of
things, brother. Whatever you want, where I want to go, I got you.
So usually I'm gonna pull your card. So you say you like to start backwards. Just start forward today, if that's okay with you.
Sure. I can be that too. Yeah, you definitely heard me.
Yeah. So also too, for those of you that don't know, Maurice is my fellow Zoe. So I gotta start with just your roots and whatnot. So what is it like growing up in a Asian household?
I think like any other immigrant household. So I was born in New York, as you said, in Queens, and then my pops moved us to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So I claim Boston for the most part because
there's a big Haitian community.
Massive Haitian community. I was there from age 5 to 18, but I was talking about this today. So typical immigrant family, pops and moms were in public education, hard workers. Come home after a long day, my father would always sit on the couch in the living room, lean his head back, fall asleep for a little bit. 8:30, he would wake up. Man, I didn't even eat dinner. But we were all education and family roots. We were definitely not poor. I had a good, solid upbringing. We had some money troubles and stuff like that. But coming from Northern Haiti with what they didn't have compared to what I had, I got really lucky with my two parents.
What part of Haiti are they from?
Pops was from Port-au-Prince, which is in the north of the country. My mother, her side of the family is from Port-au-Prince to Cap.
Okay, yeah. My dad is from Jacmel.
Jacmel, yeah.
That's one there, Cookin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so north side, south side for me.
No doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, so the reason I asked is because just, hearing your story so many times, it seems like, you did have like the traditional Haitian, story of, go to school, what did they say? Was it l'école, l'église, l'école?
Yep.
Yeah, go to school, get education, get a good job and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, transitioning into entrepreneur is kind of like, I guess we say frowned upon, but I mean, at that point for you, it was like, well, you didn't know about one.
Yeah, I had to think back on it a little bit because when I went to, I went to public school outside Boston,
mm-hmm.
and then I started getting in trouble. Typical, right? My father put me into private school that helped because I was so inundated with work. I had no time to mess around between schoolwork and playing football and all that type of stuff. But once I went to college, University of Virginia, and got in on an ROTC scholarship, I was on my own. So it was all my decision. I'll never forget my mother. I called her between freshman and sophomore year. I was like, Mom, I have no money. And she was like, welcome to the club. You have to figure this out. And that's when it clicked to me. My parents did their job. Their job was just to get me an opportunity. And then from that point, like I was playing football, doing ROTC, mechanical engineering, and then I found a job at a vehicle crash test center near my university for $10 an hour. This is 1994. $10 an hour back then, that's a lot of money for a college kid. So in theory, I was entrepreneurial starting in college because I was just doing so many different things and finding my own way to hustle and get around and stuff. Just like any Haitian family or any immigrant family in general, like growing up, it was all get your education, get a good job, save your money. You'll be like, get the title, you'll be fine. And I went a totally different route.
Right. Yeah, so for me, I could say I had a similar background as well. So I went to the University of Scranton up in Pennsylvania, majored in finance, and then kind of took that from there. You know, I'm with talent and whatnot. So yeah, so I could say mine was pretty traditional as well there too. So just to backtrack a little bit. So you said you did ROTC and you played football at the same time. How did you manage? Because that's UVA, that's a D1, right?
Yeah, UVA, University of Virginia is Division I. Just like everything in my story, if you have passion for something, you'll find a way. I had no choice when it came to ROTC. I needed to pay for school. Right. That's first. I had no choice for football because that was my passion in life at the time. And then, believe it or not, I had no choice but to do mechanical engineering because other degrees like sociology and English, I wasn't a writer. I knew how to do 1 + 1. So I was like, let me do engineering.
Yeah, kind of the same for me.
Yeah, it just all links in together. I talk about all the time in the business side. People say they lack time. I don't think people lack time. I think people lack commitment to self. If you have to do it, you will find a way to do it. The only thing you got to do is somehow squeeze in 6 to 8 hours of sleep, but then there's 14 more hours in a day, right? You just got to find a way.
Yeah, because you pledged as well, right?
Yeah, I did. I
was doing everything.
Yeah, I did. But again, it's like you just find a way. I wasn't really in college, and even now in my entrepreneurial and professional life, in my investing life, I wasn't really wasting time. Like for every 5 times the fellas was going out, I was going out once because I was responsible for myself. I had nobody to call. There was no one to call to say, I need money or can you help me? There was nothing. There was just my parents got me there. They said, you got to figure it out. They did help me get a car eventually. But that's all I had. So you hustle with it.
Yeah, because for me, I'll say the same because I played rugby in college as well. So yeah, trying to balance schoolwork and sports and SA2. I was running all of these different clubs and stuff like that on campus. It does take a lot out of you, you know?
It takes a lot out of you, but at the time when I was doing it, it didn't feel like a lot. I have this phrase in my coaching business or in my coaching community where I say you make your extraordinary ordinary.
I was actually going to quote you on that too.
Yeah, and it stems from, you know how when people get into an ice bath, it's jarring at first, right? If you've never done it before, or if I have a cottage on the water in Maryland, sometimes I'll get in the water in the middle of the winter. It can be jarring. But if you do it over and over and over, your body gets acclimated to it. So it's the same in entrepreneurial business, whatever the hustle is, you get acclimated to it over time. Where people struggle is that their mindset at the beginning doesn't like the initial feeling of it. So our brains are wired to take us back to safety and what's comfortable. And I think because I started going to that private school and because I had these other things that happened in my life, my brain started to be wired towards I can do whatever it is that I want. So you just push through.
Yeah, because one book I like to quote a lot, well, not necessarily quote, but I guess reference a lot is Atomic Habits. Yeah, and that's, you're right. Yeah. And in that book, definitely it made me actually think about certain things like, such as like the experiments that they used to do on people to really like shift their habits and whatnot. Yeah. And I know what I thought about. I said, wow, that's really crazy to think because even for me, the simplest thing is changing a phone. It could be from iPhone to Android, and it's like I'll be so used to, tap swipe. Now, that's how.
And they lock you in, right? You build that habit, so you don't want to go away from that habit. But people don't. I know it now more, but our brains, we are neuroplastic. All the wiring we have is because the way your family raised you and the way my family raised me. All the wiring a lot of other people have is because 20, 30 years of formal education told you what to be, what to look like, how to roll. It's out of wiring. But when you realize you can rewire or unwire or learn something else or whatever, then you start to realize, man, the world, you can literally go, in my moniker, Try Life On, you can literally go try different parts of life on whenever you want to, whether it's family life, living in the Mideast, starting a business, being in a traditional career, having 3 careers like I had. We just kind of get stuck in this. How do you have time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why do I not? Why do you think I don't have time? It's because you were in school, and time in school was you go to school, you do your homework, you go to bed. We just get wired for that. And that's just not the way my brain was working at all.
Yeah, because me, I'm definitely a night owl, so I could definitely stay up and do everything I had to do all at once in one go. And like you said, my brain just wasn't wired that way to just go to class, go to practice, go to bed, or go to work, or whatever the case may be. It was always, you know, I gotta do something. I gotta move around. I was just so fidgety in a way because, like you said, I just couldn't really get my mind to really establish that I guess you could say schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
And it came in handy for me because I was able to juggle so many things, especially when I became a trader.
Mm-hmm.
You had to adjust to that schedule, you know, especially dealing with, you know, foreign exchange market and cryptocurrency. These are markets that are always moving. So with those things, it's like sometimes I might stay up at night by choice, just because I know hey, I have to catch this move on, you know, whatever the pair of commodity or whatever it is, like the currency is. So
yeah.
So definitely forced the habit. So we went from class, so now we enter the real world, right? The physical world. So fresh out of college, like, what are your thoughts initially? That sounds like you enjoyed it so much.
So I did ROTC. The fortunate for me, my journey, there were a lot of military officers coming out in 1997, so they offered me Guard or Reserve. I took that. I got hired by a company then called Anderson Consulting, but which is now called Accenture. It's one of the big consulting firms, global consulting firms and stuff. And right out of college, I had 2 job offers. One was for Anderson. The other one was for Procter & Gamble, running a production line of production line of like cosmetics or something. I can't totally remember what it was. And immediately I had a visceral reaction to the idea of sitting in one place my whole life. Right? Because if I was going to do the production line stuff, I was going to be stuck in something Valley, Pennsylvania. I can't remember what it's called. But with the consulting work, I was like, oh, I can work on a project for 6 months in California. Then I'm done with that. I can go to LA, or I can go to DC. If I'm done with that, I can go to New York. And I wanted the variety of things, you know what I mean? So that was my thought coming out of college was, it wasn't so much how much money I was going to make as how many experiences I was going to have. That has permeated my entire life in every way that you know, but I was always like chasing experiences from day one, from age 21 on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could tell that too because, well, obviously, you know, like your lifestyle and whatnot, you try to, I was actually going to backtrack this a bit too, to mention, like you said on other platforms, you spent time in France as a child as well, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's kind of where a lot of that stemmed from, like
that's where all of it stemmed from.
Okay.
And the quick story is, my father was very smart. He had an exchange student stay at my house when I was 14 from France. The next summer, I went to his house in Paris. And his father, who's like a second father to me, this is 1990, for context. His father drove us around in an old 6-shift Range Rover for 30 days. And I was a knucklehead brother running the streets of Boston at the time. And now I'm being exposed to wine and French girls and food and smells and castles, and it was outrageous. I didn't know anything existed other than Cummings Highway in Boston, Massachusetts. Like, that was the stomping grounds to be at. And here I was 15 having all these emotions. So you fast forward, and I was like, what else does the world have to offer? I always had that in my head. What does the world have to offer? Where is it? Because the only thing I knew as far as success at that time was, I'm going to get to the NFL. I'm going to buy nice clothes. It was the typical black stuff, man. Like,
right.
Nobody taught us about wealth. It was buy symbols of wealth. Get the Mercedes, have the chains, get the beeper. I'm dating myself. Beepers and stuff, and get the Nikes, get the Adidas. It was always that stuff. But anyways, when I had that experience in France, it showed me, okay, life can be much better. So what I was chasing from that point on, I just didn't realize it was experiences and relationships. And then I needed money to have those experiences and relationships, and that's what pushed me into investing later. down the line.
Yeah, so I guess was money your motive as to, well, I wouldn't say motive, but, well, I guess I would say motive. Was that really the motive to, like, jump into real estate? Because coming from mechanical engineering, right, it's like, I guess, a parallel to some degree.
No. Not the parallelism, you're right. But money was not the reason that I got into real estate. So 15, I had that trip. Age 21, I graduate. But when I was in New York around age 21, I found a book, Personal Finance for Dummies. It talked about passive income. Something clicked in my mind, which was passive income is that income that you can generate without physically having to be somewhere, right? So before you got here, I was on my phone. I was looking at some stuff, and a bunch of property managers sent me messages that says, here's your income, your income, your income. I'm in New York, but I have property managers from all over the U.S. sending me money, right? Okay, so if you have passive income coming in, then I have the ability to have time. Like I'm here with you in New York today. Mm-hmm. And tonight I'll be in DC. And on Friday, I'll be flying back to the Mideast. And on Wednesday, I'll be in Paris. Because that income, it's not about, for me, it was not about the income. It was about what the income did, which is give me time, right? Mm-hmm. So I made that connection at age 21, reading that book. At age 25, I bought my first place. It was at the beginning of the 2000 real estate cycle. It appreciated 30 grand in 3 months because I bought it. And then the same floor plan 3 months later in another building sold for 30 grand more. My father explained to me, you made 30 grand. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? So then there's no Google back then. There's no Yahoo was just starting back then. So I went to the library, read a bunch of books. Bottom line is I got into, that started my journey down for $300 million of real estate, but it was not for money. It was because I was tying together, if I can generate money while I'm not having to be somewhere, I can go back to when I was 15 and keep exploring life and the world. And I ended up being an actor on TV because I had time, and I ended up investing in more real estate. I ended up opening a restaurant. I ended up failing coffee shops. Like I want experience, you know what I'm saying? So real estate, yes, was for also that experience of investing and having partners and stuff, but it was because I wanted to experience life more.
So were you doing everything by yourself, or did you like work with? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm laughing because that's like a PTSD statement because so I bought that first place, made that money or made that equity, went to the library. By the end of the year, I think this is 2003, I had bought 10 more. Loans are very different back then. You could get loans without putting anything down, and there was no doc loans, and there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But long story short, as a 26-year-old, I owned 10 properties. By the time I was 37, I owned 35 properties, but I self-managed all of them.
Is this, I'm sorry, this is before, like, I guess, was there business funding involved, or is this just like personal?
This is just straight off my personal credit. And I try to highlight this for people. It's not that you're like 35, that's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. It's not that I had it perfect, and it's not that I didn't make mistakes, and it's not that I didn't get myself in trouble. I did in a lot of cases. However, I'm the type of person who doesn't overanalyze things. Like if the book told me to do something, I did it. I was like, this dude wrote a book, or this woman wrote a book, which means they did something in life. I'm going to stick with that book. I'm not saying that book is the best, but I'm saying I'm the best at that book. So I picked like 4 or 5 books. I stuck with them, and I just did what they told me to do the whole time. Where I struggled and had the PTSD moment there is like I had Accenture during the day. In 2008, I became a street cop as well.
Right.
I was in the military as well. I had my first son in the year 2000. I had a lot going on. So then, but then if I had to evict someone, I had to go to court. Or if someone moved out of an apartment, I had to re-rent it, and I needed to go paint it. It was just too much. It was. In hindsight, I'm glad it happened the way it did, but I would never do that again. I would never do that again. Later, I know I'm fast forwarding, but later I got smart. I gave up 10% of my revenue to get back 90% of my time by hiring property managers. I finally figured that out.
Yeah, because I don't know if you're familiar with Max Maxwell. Yeah, he's also like a big time real estate investor.
Okay.
And with him, I just started watching his content and whatnot, and I do reference to his stuff here. So I was like, with him, just understanding, and building a team and things like that. It's like, me personally, I don't really know too many people that's really into real estate. I mainly know agents, realtors and whatnot. So it's like, I don't really know, the game to it, but, asking somebody like you, for example, it's like, I'm always trying to understand where do the olive branches go, or not olive branches, but where do the hands come in, the helping hands come in? Is this through, like I said, the agents and the realtors? Is this through just hiring people for project managers or, whoever? But
it's just like any business. Like I have a bunch of businesses now, but just like any business, I just did it and course corrected along the way. Okay, so when I bought my first, not the first property my dad talked to me about, when I bought my first investment property, because the first property was when I was living in. When I bought my first investment property, I happened to hire this realtor. She was an amazing woman. I still do not know this. I've talked about her so much on social media, but I don't know her name because at the time she was in her 70s. So I think she's passed now. If I could find her and even go to her grave, I would go to give respect because of what she did for me. But she was the one who told me, hey man, just stick with the $100,000 things, buy 12 of them, pay them off. And it changed my life because as soon as I did 2 or 3 of the $100,000 things, I wanted to go do bigger and bigger and bigger. And she convinced me to not do that. And thank God she did. And I'll loop back to that. But I found her. Okay. So that's a team member. Okay. Then I found a State Farm agent for insurance. He is a team member. Then I eventually found a property manager. That is a team member. You just slowly build this team around you. Now, here's what I did that I think people fail at, that I got right in my 20s. I stuck with them. So where I could have, let's say, if I bought a property in DC, and we're not going to get into rates of return, but let's just say I could make 10% cash on cash on one property in DC. But I could buy a property in Delaware and make 16% cash on cash return. I'm doing a DC property all day. The reason I'm doing the DC property is because it's already in my team. So I buy the property, give the key to the property manager that I already got, call the insurance agent that I already got. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Call the same contractor that I already got. Because everything was so confined, well, not necessarily confined, but generally in the same areas, I was just plugging into a system.
Yeah.
And I did it organically, not realizing that that's why I grew so fast. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
If people understand that the idea, you can make money buying real estate, but you get wealthy creating a system. I have a system. I created a system for myself, right? People chase money. When you chase money, it runs. When you create a system, it becomes stable. I did that really well, even though I got in trouble in 2008, 2009 with the downturn, but I found my way through it. But you just have to build that team. And then nowadays, 2,000 apartments, 12 property managers. I don't even know how many insurance people, stuff like that. But I have no employees, no nothing. It's just all virtual, all systems that I've built. I always carry my laptop with me. My cell phone is always with me. And then I can run everything I own from those 2 devices.
So when you, like I said, at factory like this, so when you're just casually walking through here, but do you ever look at properties and wonder, what would you do with it?
Oh, yeah.
Like this studio, for example.
I don't think... So there are people who look at buildings in a creative way. Someone like me, I look at a building as I'm not supposed to have it, and I want it.
It's like a toy.
Not so much of a toy as I now... Look, when I did the original real estate stuff, it was all single-family homes, okay? And then in 2015, I realized that I was pressing repeat on that whole single-family thing. It had been 14 years. I wasn't learning anything anymore. So then I went to a seminar, and then I learned how to buy apartment buildings. And now I think I've owned 32 apartment complexes now in my day. It's the challenge of it. It's really the challenge of it. Like when I look at a building now, it's like, can I acquire that? And then how will that help an investor who works with me to get financial freedom faster than I did? The development stuff that I do overseas in the country of Cyprus, it's not make money on that. Nah, it was let me buy this land and get a partner and develop it because I want to have this kind of lifestyle. So I Haitian people ain't supposed to be in Cyprus buying land, developing property. I like that challenge of saying, I don't care what you think status quo is. I'm not following. I've never followed status quo ever. So when I look at stuff, whether it's investing or business, or I don't want to be like everybody. I'm not interested in what people are telling me to do. I'm interested in where my brain takes me, so I will attack those kinds of challenges.
So I know the audience definitely wants to know if those are your biggest sell. Well, not sell, but
acquisition.
Acquisition, yeah.
I think the last one, no, it's not the last one. We closed it December 31st, 2022. It was a 240 unit apartment complex in Houston, Texas. $38 million purchase. We raised $17 million from investors. We still own and operate it today. It's big. But I have 4 business partners. I started a private equity firm with them. We are not a business. We're a family who acts like a business. I found the right people. So we will do stuff like that together. But yeah, man, my first real estate deal was investment deal, as I told you, was when I was 25 or 26. It was $90,000. I did it with a book from a library. And then my last deal in the US was $38 million. I started that with a seminar in 2015. And then the last deal I did was buying 10 acres in the country of Cyprus in 2023 for $400,000. And I think that plot of land now is worth like 1.2, 1.3. It's been a journey.
Yeah. So, going back to, mentioning that you said webinar or seminar?
Mm-hmm. The seminar I went to.
Yeah, it's the seminar. If you need to emphasize, because I feel like people tend to, I would say in this era now, because there's so many fake gurus out there, people tend to knock the understanding of going to events, whether it's a free seminar or paying for a course or anything like that. You emphasize like the significance of how that, what that has done for you.
Oh, self-education in general?
Well, yeah, self-education, or even just learning from seminars.
Everything.
Like a mentorship.
I mentor people now. My original mentor was the library. All right. So I didn't have any money.
Right.
So 2002 to 2014, I was generally in the library every Saturday. And that's why I say on the original journey, you were like, it's tough. No, man, I was entrepreneurially depressed because I was always in the library trying to learn something. The learning curve was very difficult when you're just going from books, but books are wonderful. When I did go to that seminar, that was the first time for me that I went to a quote unquote class. And it's not that seminar was the best seminar. It just exposed me to concepts I knew nothing about. I told you, I'm the type of person who just sees something, absorb it, and I just start doing and course correcting along the way, right? So the seminar, I won't even say the name of that program, but it's not the best, but it exposed me to something. That's like saying everybody's high school in the United States is the best. None of it is the best. You got to take the information and run with it. Nowadays, the problem with people is everybody has access to social media. They read a snippet or a story on Instagram or something, and they think they know something. You don't know shit. You have an idea. Mm-hmm. The beauty about mentors, and I hired my first true mentor in 2016, a lot of money, $50,000. Okay. I hired him to help me do my first multifamily deal. And it took me 3 years. And this is how he helped me. He did not help me with the business mechanics of doing the deal. Wait, this is a white dude. And I'm saying that for a reason. His first name is Craig. Craig, after 2 years, flies down from Rhode Island to DC. He's like, man, I'm coming down to see you. All right. He comes down to see me. He says, clear your schedule for 2 days. And we just sat talking. And eventually, his whole summary of why he came down, he was like, why do you think me, a white dude, is better than you, a black dude? That's how he challenged me. He's like, so you've done all this real estate, and every time you try and go get a multifamily or an apartment complex or a mobile home community, you just give up. And that was the first time I understood the neuroplasticity thing I was telling you, that we have to rewire our brains. My brain kept taking me back to safety. Yeah, you was making so much. You were doing really good at the single family. Just go back to the single family. You're good. Yeah. When he challenged me, when he came down and challenged me like that, I took it personally, and I closed on my first mobile home community 3 months later. So, no, he's not a guru, but that one push was worth the $50K. He had to find the right way to motivate me, and he was able to do that. So when I coach people now, lifestyle design and wealth and real estate and stuff, they pay a significant amount of money for me, but because they get all the knowledge and all the mistakes that I have made, they don't need to go to a seminar. Mm-hmm. They just call me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? Because I don't know where I am in the world. They can WhatsApp or something. So I understand people's trepidation about all that stuff. Get referrals, find people who've gone to particular programs. But at some point, you just have to jump. You're going to overanalyze it your whole life. And even if it's not the best thing, you're going to learn something, right? People will pay $100,000 and get in debt for an English degree, but they won't pay $10,000 for a seminar that could make them, let's not even say $1 million, could make you $100,000, $50,000 a year. So what? You've learned something and you've accelerated that learning. So nowadays, I probably spend 100 to 150 grand a year on self-education, whether it's seminars, mentors, flying to different places. I'm always in self-education mode.
Yeah, because, I mean, the closest I could say is, like, for me, it's probably watching The Banker, right? That was the name of the movie.
That's education. That's education. Yeah. Shark Tank is education. Yeah, I've used tactics off of Shark. I'll sit there like this. What cost of acquisition for a customer? What does that mean? And I'll go read it. Right? We have to find ways to. Social media is good for ideas, but where we're all screwing up now is we don't take that idea and go do deep learning with it anymore. And that's where I was very smart as a kid. I had 2 real estate books, 1 lifestyle design book, 1 purpose of life book, and 1 general investing book. I just stayed with those 5 books, and I just I can quote pages out of the books now, right? Mm-hmm. Self-education is everything. As Jim Rohn says, you can make a living from a degree. You can make a life from self-education. It's just a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole reason behind this platform, really.
Yes.
A lot of people just think I didn't have my own podcast. No, it's something that you could learn from. That's it. You could learn from. Even myself, people think I just sit there and have conversations, but the whole time I'm taking notes, mentally. Sometimes I'm actually typing notes as people speak. Even though I could rewatch it, I just type it in the moment because I'm so fascinated.
But what people don't realize that you're doing, I do, because I'm a podcast host, and I'm very aware of what podcast can do for people. So you and I you and I have known each other for almost a year now, right? Trying to get this interview. Maybe it's been a year. I don't know. Trying to get this together. I never forgot you, did I?
No.
Always, Reese, I'm trying to get up to New York. Couldn't get there. No, you coming? I don't know. I'm in the Mideast right now. I can't get. When you talk to somebody like this, it is actually a relationship moment, okay? I'm a decent real estate investor. I was a decent restaurant guy. I sucked at coffee shops. I don't know how to develop, but I'm developing. It's all relationships. It's not always the what. Most times it's the who. So when you do these things on your platform, what you're doing is you're connecting yourself to someone who has deep information about something where your learning curve is like that. And if you guys connect, like the person I was talking to at Yahoo Finance today, we're talking about a business idea just because we were talking. Mm-hmm. That's what these platforms are so good about. People will sit at home and look at social media and just be like, oh,
such idea. And
social media is great for an idea, but you have got to get up. You have got to move. That's why I talk about geographic freedom and location freedom. It's not about freedom per se. It's about mobility, right? I'm mobile, so I can get up here and talk with you and help some people, and maybe something comes out of it. So,
yeah, and I love that you said that too, because I was actually going to touch on that. So, I believe it was on. Was it Black Renaissance? I think that you mentioned, there's this quote that you said, and you said, well, I guess, yeah, there's a quote, yeah, but you're basically selling And they're from New Orleans, I believe.
Oh, Texas, I think.
Texas?
I think Dallas.
Yeah, I remember you said something like, me coming to Dallas to speak to you guys is nothing because I could just go to France and have like a cup of coffee and
I know exactly what I said.
Something along those lines.
said that me coming to Dallas is like somebody going to 7-Eleven. Mm-hmm. Because I think I was in Lebanon at the time. I think I was in Lebanon. I flew to DC for one day, and then I flew to Dallas for one day, and then flew back to DC. And then I think 2 days later, I was back in Europe or something like that. And they were talking to me about, isn't that a lot of moving around? And I said, some people go to Walmart on weekends. I'll get on a plane. Mm-hmm. Me going to Dallas for that one day, it's like coming to New York. I'm going right back on the train. I got up this morning at 2:30 in the morning. I went for a 5-mile walk outside before I came here. I came up. We have to be mobile for opportunities. Now, people will be like, that's a lot of moving around. Remember I told you, once you start doing stuff, you get acclimated to it. So any opportunity, and it's not opportunity about money. It's opportunity to connect with people, to do something different, to challenge yourself, to give back. But people will sit there, right, in front of the computer, watch social media and be like, man, that's too far to go. No. They got to flip the script on that. The opportunity is out in the world. It's not always sitting behind a screen. You have to get out and engage people.
Yeah, I think that's when you said the extraordinary to ordinary. Because I remember what stuck with me was the example you gave of like going from here and then going to France and having a cup of coffee on a random Wednesday to whatever. And you were saying like people would think, that's a flex. People would think that's extraordinary. and you said, well, we got to make it ordinary.
Yeah, so most likely the example I was talking about was I go to Frankfurt, Germany a lot for dinner. It's not a flex. It's not, oh, you have money. No. I've been doing this from my 20s when I had nothing, okay? It's just that I look at the airport as a bus station and an airplane as a bus with wings. Where did I just go? I'm gonna run something down for you. I was home in Maryland, and I had a 6-day window without my youngest son because he went on a swim trip with his swim team. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I took a plane to Paris. And when I landed in Paris, I was like, I'm either going to go to Athens or I'm going to go to Beirut. This is all travel hacking. This was like $300, not a lot. Okay.
Travel hacking.
I get there and there's rain in Athens, so the flight is delayed. So I was like, I'm going to Beirut. So I went to Beirut. I caught up with some friends, and then I ended up, they were like, we're running a 5K this weekend. You want to come? I was like, yeah, let me run a 5K. So I'm running this 5K. Now I'm a gym rat. Like I deadlift and like I prefer heavy weights and stuff. I'm not a runner by any means. I can do a 5K, but I'm not a runner. I'm running. I feel good and stuff. And then my friend Angie is like, we just hit 10 miles. I'm like, what do you mean we just hit 10 miles? I was having such a good time. I didn't realize I was close to a half marathon. So I just ran a half marathon. Mm-hmm. Okay. I had that experience because the world is very small to me because I've learned this skill set of travel hacking. Think of the airport as a bus station. And we have this opportunity to make the world much smaller. But the reason why people think it's extraordinary is only because they don't do it. Right. It's only because they don't do it. Now, if you did it the way that I've been doing it for so many years, it becomes ordinary. Right. So when I had those 3 careers at the same time, ordinary. Flying overseas to go read a book in Turkey, ordinary. I would leave work on a Wednesday from DC when I was corporate. Wednesday night, fly up to the Finnish Arctic. I would fly back on Sunday night, get back to work on Monday. Ordinary. Because I was so used to it, right? I got good at it. So you can do that with anything in your life. You just have to stop accepting people's definition of success or what the status quo is telling you. Status quo is defined by people no smarter than you and I. Mm-hmm. So I've created my own status quo.
Yeah, because the reason that stuck with me is because, all the time we see people say things like, yeah, I just got this flight to Miami for $50. I just got this flight to Mexico for $200. And then they go that one time and then they don't want to go again. So like a year from now or somebody's birthday. But it's like, hey, if $50, $200 is so easy for me. Why not do it all the time? Make it ordinary, right?
Because it's not in their mindset to make it ordinary, right? If you get into my triathlon community, the people who are in there, it's like 400 of us. We're all doing things that other people would look at as nuts, but for us, it's not. It's just, it's easy. It's becoming. I have a buddy of mine right now who lives in Slovenia, right near Croatia,
right?
And somebody else coaching, and he's like, listen, I'm going to be on the Slovenian coast in 2 weeks. Do you want to come? And I went on Orbitz and I looked and I was like, yeah, I'm coming. I could do that, or I could go to the bar down the street. To me, it's all the same. And I'd rather go to Slovenia.
And when you say this, I kind of got to apologize to the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, because people get on him a lot because they say, oh, as the mayor, why are you in all these parties and clubs and parades and, you're everywhere but in your office? And I think that is kind of like, well, I mean, he's kind of in his own way making these things ordinary. Like, he's kind of making the worst matter for himself in that same light.
To me, that sounds like a good mayor, because you should know your own city. Like Quattro Capital, one of the companies that I run now, I don't have an office.
Mm-hmm.
I visit my investors all the time. I was out somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
My coaching company today, the guy who connected me into Yahoo, he's somebody who is a coaching student of mine. I don't have an office. I'm always out and about connecting with people. And then we got lunch.
Anyway, so
yeah, it's just, but that's what I mean about this whole status quo thing. Status quo is a default language. It was put upon us by our family and 20 to 30 years of formal education, by societal norms, by you and I are black, so we're supposed to act this way. We're supposed to dress this way. We're supposed to do things this way. I'm okay. I want to be part of society, but I don't default accept what's been told. This is not about entrepreneurialism, by the way. It's about existing in your life the way that you want to exist, the way that gives you emotion, the way that you know that when I punch, I'm going to be laughing. Like, there was this quote that says, when I finish my life, I want to be running to the end, screaming, screeching, all torn up, bloody, bruised, because I lived well. I don't want to be all prime and prissy and say I was the CEO of this and I went to the office every day. And for me, my definition. Now, other people want to do that. That's fine. But where I push back on life is people are unconsciously accepting default definitions of how to do life.
Mm-hmm.
Where since age 15, since those experiences, I have consciously designed my life the entire time. And the reason I come on podcasts like this is because I want to show people, like, you don't have to do it that way. And matter of fact, if you want to use me as an excuse, use me as an excuse. If Lloyd's doing that, I can go do that. If Mo turned down being a partner at his firm 4 times because he didn't want the extra 30 hours a week for an extra $50,000 to pay so he could save that time to go be a police officer and travel the world and stuff like that, I guess I can do that too. We're just allowing all these damn definitions to dictate who we are and what we do. And now I'm good with all that.
Yeah, because it goes back to, what did you say? I have a word.
Yeah.
You said, what was it? We're intended to live, not exist.
We are intended to thrive, not exist. Not just simply exist. You know, the running joke about the movie The Matrix is that it was a documentary.
Yeah.
It's a documentary. I sometimes sit at now mind you, I worked for regular jobs, if you would, for 25 years, and I was very happy doing it. But I left 3 years ago, and I sometimes would sit at the light after dropping my son off at school, and it'll be like 10 o'clock, and I'll look and I'll be like, where is everybody going? Why is no one saying hi to each other? No one, like, everyone's running around like those NPCs, non-player characters in video games. It's almost like drones or something like that. There's nothing wrong with having a traditional career or being a teacher or being a police officer the way I would do it consciously. Like, make a decision about what you're doing and then hopefully buy some assets on the side and invest and all those types of things. But we have way more control than we realize.
And I feel like the crypto wave right now is kind of evident of that because, I mean, even for me, myself, a lot of people have seen me always speak about crypto, and I've always told people, hey, that's why I'm investing into crypto is by going into my paycheck and taking a bit out and just seriously buying here, right?
Yeah.
And now people seeing that, the accumulation of all the money I've done saved is turning into something very profitable, very lucrative, right? So for you kind of had that same story where you were saying the same thing earlier, as well as on your podcast as well, where it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter for the audience that how they make their money or what they use their money, as long as they're doing it in a way that they could invest in.
I don't want anyone to hear our conversation and be like, Maurice is advocating that I buy real estate. That's not what I'm suggesting. When I talk about my financial freedom journey, the age 21 to 38, the 35 single family homes coming down to 18, I just happened to choose real estate for the reasons I told you. My dad was like, yo, this thing you bought, appreciate it. What you said is really important about crypto, because you are buying an asset. I don't care if the asset is crypto, gold, businesses, real estate, stocks, bonds, equity funds. It's the systematic habit of buying them.
Buying it, right?
Right. So
yeah, to that point. Yeah.
You have to get, if you can be systematic, if you learn to pay yourself first, stop buying commercial shit that is stealing your ability to pay yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
I only make 50 grand. Well, I started at $37,000. And when I was making $37,000 in my first year, I still remember, I don't know, the check was like $1,200, $1,300. I don't remember what it was, but I was still taking $200 of it and I was storing it aside. And then when I had enough money to buy a piece of property, I bought a piece of property. Even the storage of $50 is still you getting money aside to buy something. Mm-hmm. Whether it's real estate, crypto, dividend stocks, this is the shit they want to teach you in school, which is why the self-education is so important. I stumbled into real estate. I stumbled into it. And the other thing that I did very good in hindsight, and I'm very proud of 23-year-old me, is after I stumbled into real estate, I put blinders on. I didn't see crypto when it came out. I didn't see NFTs. I don't know nothing about gold. I don't know nothing about silver. I don't know nothing about commodities. I'm not interested, because I just stuck with the thing that was going to meet my particular goal, which was to meet my basic needs on a monthly basis to create more time. And if I can create more time, I can have more space for experiences and relationships with people. Mm-hmm. I was like, real estate's working. I don't chase money. When you chase money, it runs. So if the real estate was working, why would I jump to something else if I'm achieving the goals that I have for myself, right? But it's okay. You can diversify and you can do all the things you want to. What I'm trying to get across to people in my platform, Try Life On, and with what you do on your platform, just get systematic about buying shit that appreciates or that maintains value. That is not the symbols of wealth. It rarely is any symbol going to actually become a value to you, whether it's a car, clothes, I feel like the word is more out there nowadays, but certainly when I was growing up, it wasn't out there at all. I'm self-taught in every respect when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, because even not just investing in terms of just buying things, or even just putting your money to go grow. Because one thing that you always speak about is the 401k.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I did real estate. So the question I get a lot is, did you use a 401k? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I used it. First of all, a 401k is forced savings. Mm-hmm. And for 99% of the population, they don't have the discipline to do what I suggested, which was to store your money off and go buy assets. So I actually think it's a good thing for them. What they don't realize, because they're not self-educated and they did not read that one financial book that I read that has 422 pages in it, is 96% of the mutual funds that exist in the world do not beat the market. 96%. So that means that only 4% of mutual funds out there actually beat the S&P 500, which means you might as well just go into the S&P 500. Mm-hmm. But in 401ks, because all those things have funds, when the 401k came around in 1974, because of the ERISA law, that came into place not to benefit you and I. It came into place to benefit the financial industry, because the financial industry
if the government encouraged everyone to go in a 401k or 403b, the financial industry was going to get all the fees. Okay, still in that investing Bible that I have, if you invest $100,000 here and $100,000 here in a 401k, and this fund has a 1% management fee, and this fund has a 3% management fee, the 3% management fee person will have 60% less when they pull that money out. Funds compound, you make money. Yeah, but fees negative compound. And because we're not self-educated, there's trillions of dollars that are being taken from people's paycheck that they don't realize that 60% of it they will never see because they picked the fund that is 3% versus the one that's 1%. Mm-hmm. Everything is self-education. Everything is self-education. But I did use the 401k. And fortunately, when I was at Accenture, it had a, this is a good story. It had a self-directed brokerage option. Mm-hmm. So in 2008, I took 10%. 2008, I had $500,000 in there. I took $50,000 of it and I put it in Tesla. I got lucky because it split, and that 50 turned into 1.3 inside my 401k, which is nuts. Education. Use what's available to you. Force storage. Make your investing life easy and your day-to-day life hard. I'm always broke. I never have any money, ever. Because it's always wrapping back around to be invested in some kind of asset, or I don't want to just say asset because life is not about money. When I say an asset, it's also a trip, a seminar, a relationship, doing something for your family, building up your lifestyle. There's a lot of different assets, but we should systematically be buying assets.
Yeah. So one question that, well, we actually haven't asked it in a while, but okay. My co-host, Mike, he loves to ask this question. I'm sure he'd be happy to hear your answer on this one, right? Yeah. So one question we like to ask is, it doesn't have to necessarily be in terms of what you've done as an entrepreneur, but it could be in your life as well. Is it harder to stay creative or stay inspired?
Is it harder to stay creative or stay inspired? I'm going to answer that a different way.
Okay.
Or I'm going to ask the question in a different way back at you. I've heard that question as, look, you cannot always be motivated. You just can't.
Oh, I knew you were going to go there.
But you can be consistent. Mm-hmm. So I lacked motivation all the time. I was exhausted, especially in 2008 when half my tenants stopped paying because of the downturn and I had to fight with banks and stuff. I was exhausted, but I was consistent. And I think consistency is a form of creativity because you're not giving up on anything. So my journey sounds like, man, he had it figured out. No, I didn't. No, I didn't at all. Not even close. It's just that I remain consistent and defiantly loyal to that 15-year-old kid who just wanted to live life. You know what I mean? Nowadays, I'm more creative because when I left the 9-to-5 world, I got my brain back and I created more companies. I had more physical and mental space to do stuff.
Made more experiences.
Yeah. But my habit of consistency, like even this morning, I knew I was going to get on the train early. So I got up at 2:30 and I still went for a 5-mile walk before getting on the train because I've just developed this habit of consistency, whether it's working out or like I wasn't about to go to the gym that early, even though my gym's 24 hours, but I did want to get out and get fresh air and get some mileage under my legs and stuff. I still buy assets. I still read the same 5 books. I still go to seminars. I still travel. I'm not always inspired. I'm tired today, but I want to be consistent in helping to get messages out for people to educate themselves. So I show up. Mm-hmm. I'm consistent. So maybe for me, a form of creativity is my consistency in a way. You can't always be motivated. It's impossible.
Yeah. So I actually did have some other stuff I wanted to hit on, but I know the time check. I know you have.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely was going to dive into the 3 lives, but
I'll hit it real quick.
Okay.
The 3 real estate lives?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wanted to further understand that because I kind of didn't understand the first time.
Yeah. So I'm in my 3rd real estate life. And I'm glad you asked this question because people will, for most good investors, real estate has nothing to do with money, nor does crypto, or it will teach you things. It will give you life options. It's not, I know people who make $4,000 a month on 3 paid off condos, and they left, they moved to Thailand. That's all they ever did. Right. Mm-hmm. It's what you want out of it. So in my first real estate life, that was 2002 to 2014. That was the original financial freedom journey. I was taking paychecks from work. I was buying real estate. I got up to 35. Some of them appreciated. Instead of selling them and buying a Mercedes, I sold them and I paid off the other ones. And whatever wasn't paid off, I used my paycheck from Accenture, the military, the police, money from my grandmother. I was refunding bottles at the time. Like I remember one year I refunded $700 worth of bottles.
Like that, the 5 cents, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, I'm going to pay off real estate with these bottles. That was my first real estate life, my own financial freedom journey. It got me to 13 grand of passive income by the time I was 38 years old. My second real estate life is what I told you. I realized that I wasn't growing. I wasn't learning anymore. So I went to a seminar, learned about apartment complex investing, started buying apartment complexes and mobile home communities. And when I started raising money from investors, I realized that I had a real passion for them achieving financial freedom faster than I did, because it took me 14 years, right? I feel like I could do it faster for people. And I wanted a new challenge for myself. So that was my second real estate life, which is still going right now. And then my third real estate life has nothing to do with money, everything to do with lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So in the military, I was a federal agent. I ran a field office in Izmir, Turkey, which is Western Turkey. The Mediterranean is further down south. We would do missions down there and stuff. I was like, I want to live here one day. That was 2015. In 2019, I had a conversation with a friend. She told me that someone we graduated college with, her husband was a real estate developer on the island of Cyprus. I tracked him down. I went back to Cyprus 30 times, mobility. It's like, man, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of this. How can I? And we're business partners now. We're friends now. And I told you I bought all that land on the island and stuff like that. But that was not for money. That was because I don't want to be the American dude overseas who just sits in a restaurant and then leaves. Yeah, I wanted to be part of the community, a respected businessman. And so now I have a life in the Mediterranean, and I float between, I'm primarily in Lebanon, but I have a lot of business interests in Cyprus. And each real estate life was purposeful to something, mm-hmm. right? And I have one more life coming. I can feel it. And that's to deleverage everything. As I sell off the apartment complexes that I own, I won't raise more money from investors because I have mentors who are well into 9 figures of net worth, well into the hundreds of millions. They're 60, 65, 70 years old, and they still have hundreds of investors to deal with. I'm like, when are you going to enjoy your life? And they admitted to me, they're like, we're getting out 15 years too late. So I'm 49 years old. By the time I sell all my apartment complexes and any business interests that I have that has investors associated, I might be 52, 53, but everything will be paid off. Everything. It doesn't mean I won't do more deals. It just means I won't be encumbered by anything anymore. That'll be my fourth real estate life, but I feel it beginning now because life is not about real estate. Real estate support life. So if I have enough, just like the 9-to-5 status quo, there is an entrepreneurial status quo too. Mm-hmm. Maurice, you got 10,000. You have 2,000 units. Why don't you get 10,000? For what? For what? If I double my net worth, am I going to be double happy? Do I want that stress anymore? I don't. But just like your crypto and just like the 401k we were talking about, if I hold all that real estate, it's going to appreciate in value. By the time my kids is 30 years from now, you can imagine I don't sell anything. You can imagine how much, as far as my personal stuff, you can imagine how much it'll be worth. Nah, man, I'm moving into very, very, very intentional living. And that's the purpose of those lives.
Yeah, like you said, let the paycheck just, what do you say, be the lighter fluid?
Yeah, the paychecks just act like light. Yeah, you have listened to my stuff.
Listen, I took my notes. I did my homework.
Yeah, the paychecks are like lighter fluid on the fire, man. That's why people are like, you were financially free at 38, but you work for another 8 years. Why? Because the paychecks are lighter fluid to everything. Like it's like
like you said, I didn't look at my bank account for like 6 months.
Yeah.
That's like what, 3 months right there? Like,
Yeah. I'll never forget that moment when I realized that, when I was like, I haven't looked at my bank account in 6 months. I was just living at that point. But all the money that was coming in was being reinvested. I wasn't spending it at all. I was just putting lighter fluid on the fire.
Yeah, Maurice. So it was definitely a pleasure to have you here.
Man.
I hope you definitely make it back safely. And, thank you again for even taking a chance on, a random kid from New York City that just hit you up on Instagram. Yeah. So, I definitely want to, give you a special thank you there.
It's
also, too, if you want to let the audience know where they could find you if they want to get in contact with you.
So the best place for people to find me is trylifeon.com. So that's my platform. My podcast is the Try Life On podcast. It's all about lifestyle design, financial time, geographic purpose, and relationship freedom. There's a couple TV projects coming out under that moniker at some point soon. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Maurice Philogene on LinkedIn. Maurice at TryLifeOn is my email. And then my, if you want to go look, my private equity company is Quattro Capital, thequattroway.com. And people can look up apartment investing and reach out to me there too if they're interested. But you'll find me somewhere. Just Google it.
Yeah. So just like that, you guys know where to find them. If you're new to the, if you're new to the show, definitely hit the subscribe button and check out, our other guests as well. You might find, if it's not real estate, you might find an industry that you're open to learning about, or if you're probably in already and want to learn more about. So, yeah, Maurice, again, it's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, brother.
Yeah, just like
I appreciate you, man.
Me and my evil twin, we're out of here.
Peace.